Deep beneath the lonely mountain, where molten fire paints the caverns in flickering gold, something ancient and terrible begins to stir. A whisper of smoke curls from widening nostrils as golden eyes slit open for the first time in centuries. This is no ordinary dragon awakening. This is the moment fate shifts. The creature who will one day be called Smaug the Terrible stretches his wings in the darkness, sensing something beyond the familiar heat of stone and flame. An unshakable hunger pulls him upward, toward the surface world of men and dwarves, toward kingdoms ripe for claiming. What starts as a twitch of curiosity will become an avalanche of fire and greed that reshapes Middle-earth forever. Tonight, the legend begins, not with a roar, but with a single ember of ambition, catching flame in the heart of a dragon, destined to burn his name into history. The Withered Heath stretches before Smog, a scorched expanse of cracked earth and smoldering vents, where the air shimmers with heat and the bones of lesser dragons litter the ground. It is here, in this forsaken land, that he first encounters Valthorath, an elder dragon whose scales have dulled with age, but whose eyes still burn with ancient wisdom. The old worm coils around a mound of blackened relics, remnants of fallen kingdoms, and fixes Smog with a gaze that cuts deeper than any blade. "You are young, flame wielder," Valthorath rasps, but fire unchecked devours even its master. His words carry the weight of centuries, a warning honed by the ruin of countless dragons who came before. Smog's tail lashes in contempt. The elder speaks of restraint, of fear. To him, such caution is the weakness of those too feeble to claim what they desire. With a growl that shakes the earth, he challenges Valthorath to a trial by tooth and flame. A duel to prove strength is the only law of their kind. The battle is swift, brutal. Fire engulfs the sky as the two titans clash, but youth and fury triumph over age and wisdom. As Valthorath crumples beneath him, his once mighty wings torn and smoldering, he utters a curse that lingers like smoke in Smog's ears. "Gold will be your ruin." For a moment, doubt flickers in Smog's mind, an unfamiliar chill amidst the heat of victory. But then his eyes fall upon the elder's hoard, glittering dully in the sulphurous light. Treasure, power, a prize to mark his first conquest. With a derisive snort, he dismisses the warning as the last gasp of a defeated fool. The ground quakes as he gathers the riches beneath his claws, blind to the slow, creeping whisper of the curse woven into the gems and coins. He does not yet know that greed, once kindled, is a fire even dragons cannot control. The scent of gold is thick in the air, carried on the mountain winds like a siren's call. Far below the peaks of Erebor, the lonely mountain hums with the industry of dwarves' hammers pounding, forges blazing, vaults overflowing with treasures unearthed from the earth's very bones. And above it all, perched on a jagged outcrop, Smog watches. His keen eyes track the movements of sentries, the rhythm of patrols, the flicker of torchlight along hidden passageways. Every detail is etched into his mind, every weakness catalogued. Then, a rustle in the underbrush. A lone dwarf scout, eyes wide with terror, freezes beneath the dragon's gaze. For a heartbeat, the world stills. Smog could crush him in an instant, reduce him to ash with a single breath, but conquest is sweeter when seasoned with fear. The dragon's lips curl into something like a smile as the dwarf stumbles backward, his axe trembling in unsteady hands. A chase ensues, brief and brutal, a game of cat and mouse, where the mouse never stood a chance. When the inevitable end comes, it's not with a roar, but with a lazy flick of Smog's tail, sending the dwarf tumbling into a gout of flame. The acrid stench of burning flesh drifts toward Erebor's gates, and with it, a message: the dragon has marked this mountain. King Thror, his beard bristling with fury, orders the forges to work double time, reinforcing gates, setting traps, stockpiling weapons. But stone and steel are poor shields against a creature born of fire and greed. With each passing day, Smog circles closer, his patience wearing thin. The dwarves may bar their doors, but no fortress can keep out hunger like his. Somewhere deep in the dragon's mind, Valthorath's curse whispers again: gold will be your ruin, but the clink of distant riches drowns it out. The lonely mountain will be his. And when the time comes, not all the dwarves in Middle-earth will stop him. Beneath the ashen skies of Angmar, where jagged ruins claw at the horizon like the ribs of some long-dead beast, Smog lands with a shuddering impact. The air here is thick with whispers, not of wind, but of voices older than the mountains themselves, the spirits of dragons who once ruled these lands before even the Dark Lord's shadow fell. Their presence coils around him like smoke, formless yet heavy with intention. Why have you come, young fire-bearer? Their chorus echoes, a sound like embers cracking in the void. Smog's nostrils flare. These spectral elders may be wisps of memory, but their knowledge is real. He demands answers not of gold or conquest, but of power. True power, the kind that scalds the earth and bends kingdoms to ash. For a moment, there is only silence. Then, from the depths of the ruins, a single voice hisses a riddle. Beneath the roots of fire and stone, where shadows hunger, a flame sleeps. One that does not burn, but devours. The misty mountains. The name slithers into his mind, igniting his curiosity. The spirits warn him of treachery, of ancient things best left undisturbed. But warnings are for lesser creatures. With a contemptuous flick of his tail, Smog abandons the ruins, his wings carrying him toward the distant peaks. If there is a weapon hidden in those depths, it belongs to him by right. The tunnels beneath the mountains are a labyrinth of gloom, the air choked with the scent of sulfur and something darker, something alive. The deeper he ventures, the heavier the silence grows, until even the scrape of his claws against stone sounds muffled. Then, without warning, the darkness moves. A shape of smoke and ember surges from the abyss, a remnant of the Balrogs who once waged war in these halls. Its form is fractured, half real, but its whip of shadow cracks with whip-like precision, searing a line of fire across Smog's chest. The battle is unlike any he has fought. This is no duel of tooth and scale, but a clash of wills. His molten fury against the Balrog's cold, lingering malice. Flame meets shadow in a whirlwind of violence, until at last, with a roar that shakes the mountain's bones, Smog tears the creature apart, but victory comes at a cost. As the Balrog's essence dissipates, a shard of its dark fire lingers, coiling around Smog's wounds like living armor. The pain is excruciating, yet intoxicating. He can feel it, the hunger of that ancient flame, whispering to him of dominion, of ruin. When he emerges from the depths, his scales bear new scars, etched in patterns that seem to pulse with a light not entirely his own. The spirit's riddles were true. He has taken something into himself, a fragment of a power far older than dragons, far older than kings, and with it, his pride hardens into something colder, sharper. The world will soon learn the difference between a dragon who covets gold and one who craves annihilation. The rustle of leaves in Mirkwood carries more than the whispers of the wind. It carries fear. Word spreads like wildfire through elven halls and dwarven strongholds alike. Tales of a dragon whose shadow grows darker with each passing moon. Reports speak of Erebor's treasures vanishing beneath his grasp, of villages reduced to cinders, of a hunger that cannot be sated. In the heart of the forest, Thranduil's council falls silent as the truth settles upon them. This is no mere beast scavenging for gold. Smog is building an empire. The elves, ever proud and ever cautious, send forth a delegation draped in silver and emerald, their banners fluttering like the last leaves of autumn. They come not with swords drawn, but with offers of ancient knowledge, promises of forgotten alliances between their kin and the fire drakes of old. Their leader, a noble emissary with eyes like starlight, stands unflinching before Smog's bulk, her voice steady as she speaks of balance, of shared dominion. The dragon's laughter shakes the trees, deep and thunderous. You bargain with me as if I were a merchant peddling trinkets. He rumbles, circling them like a wolf sizing up wounded prey. His demand is simple, tribute, not in words or treaties, but in gold, in gems, in the very lifeblood of their kingdom. When the elves refuse, when their leader lifts her chin and declares that no elf shall bow to tyranny, Smog's amusement curdles into something far colder. The air ignites. Flames engulf the clearing in an instant, turning silken robes to ash and proud words to screams. The envoy's defiance lasts only a heartbeat before it is swallowed by fire. As the smoke coils upward, Smog's voice cuts through the crackling ruin, a proclamation meant for all of Middle-earth to hear. Let this be your answer. War is coming. News of the atrocity spreads faster than the blaze itself. In Rivendell, the White Council stirs. Elrond's fingers tighten around the arm of his chair as the tale is recounted. Gandalf's pipe goes cold in his hands. This is no longer a matter of stolen treasure or border disputes. This is a dragon who revels in cruelty, who sees diplomacy as weakness to be burned away. And in that moment, the pieces begin to move. Plans are laid in hushed tones, alliances reforged in the face of gathering shadows. Smog, perched atop his hoard, feels none of their dread. To him, the elves' fate was inevitable, their warnings meaningless. But in his arrogance, he does not notice the threads of destiny tightening around him. How the White Council's resolve hardens like steel. How a certain hobbit's name is murmured in secret councils. How the seeds of his ruin have already been sown. The fire he lit today will not be the last, but one day it may very well be his own. The screams of Lake Town rise like smoke into the dawn as Smog's wings blot out the sun. This is no mere raid. This is theater. Houses splinter beneath his claws not for lumber, but for the way the sound makes mothers clutch their children closer. Barns explode into flame, not for the grain inside, but for the desperate scramble of men trying to save livestock they'll never eat. Gold is secondary now. What he craves is the moment when terror strips away all pretense of courage, when brave defenders drop their pitchforks and run, when even the strongest voices break into sobs. Amid the chaos, a lone figure stands frozen on the docks, a young bard, his lute still strapped to his back, his hands clenched around the smoldering remains of his home's doorframe. His family is gone, his world is fire, and as Smog's mocking roar shakes the lake into waves, something inside the boy hardens, not into fear, but into purpose. The song comes to him that night as he huddles in the ruins. It's not a ballad of heroes or a lament for the dead, but something sharper, a melody woven with names. Erebor's gold will choke you, he whispers, fingers plucking phantom strings. The arrow finds its mark where scale meets gem. The words pour out like prophecy, born not from magic, but from a hatred so pure it feels like clarity. Villagers mutter that the boy's gone mad with grief, but madness doesn't explain how the tune carries on the wind, slipping through cracks in stone, curling like mist into the high halls of the lonely mountain. Smog hears it first in his dreams, a discordant thread in the symphony of his hoard's whispers. At dawn, he finds himself scanning his own flanks, obsessing over the flaw in his armor, the missing scale, long forgotten. The bard's voice is a gnat, meaningless yet why does his tail twitch at the memory of those words? The arrow finds its mark. With a snarl, he takes to the skies again, burning 3 more villages in a single afternoon, as if fire could erase the unease squirming beneath his scales. But that night, as he counts his treasures, the melody returns, louder. The boy is singing it openly now, and others have joined him. A chorus of the broken, turning grief into weaponry. For the first time in centuries, Smog feels something colder than gold pressing against his ribs. Not fear, never fear, but the slow, seeping realization that legends cut both ways. If men can weave his name into songs of terror, what stops them from singing his downfall into existence? The streets of Dale teem with desperate voices, dwarven envoys in singed cloaks clasping forearms with grim-faced men, their whispers bubbling with plans and pleas. Word has reached Smog's ears, coiled deep beneath the mountain. The scent of alliance hangs thick in the air, and it reeks of insolence. His tail flicks, scattering coins like startled birds. Let them plot, let them hope. He will teach them the futility of both. Dusk paints the sky in blood-red streaks as Smog ascends, not toward Erebor's gates, but southward, where Dale's lanterns flicker like fool's gold in the gathering dark. The attack is swift, merciless. Thatched roofs explode into sparks before the first screams even rise. Men scramble for buckets, for swords, for children caught in the inferno. But this is no indiscriminate slaughter. The dragon's strikes are precise, calculated to pull every warrior, every defender into the streets, away from the mountain. High above the chaos, Smog wheels sharply, his wings slicing through smoke. The dwarves, ever vigilant, have taken the bait. Their king's horns bellow from Erebor's ramparts, summoning troops to Dale's aid. Gates creak open, armor clatters down the stone road, and just like that, the lonely mountain's treasure halls stand naked. Molten satisfaction floods Smog's veins as he doubles back, slipping through the night like a shadow with ember eyes. The dwarven treasury yawns before him, its riches glittering in the firelight, his firelight. Coins cascade over his claws as he plunges into the hoard, not to steal, but to desecrate. Goblets are crushed beneath his bulk, gem-studded helms melted into slag. Let them return to a vault picked clean, their legacy reduced to dross. Yet as the dragon revels in his triumph, a sound cuts through the carnage below, not screams, but song. The men of Dale, though battered, have raised their voices in unison, and from the smoldering ruins, dwarven axes beat against shields in answer. Their defiance is a living thing, pulsing through the very earth. King Thror's roar carries above the din, raw with a vow that chills even Smog's fire-forged heart. No dragon, no ruin will keep us from reclaiming what is ours. For the first time, the weight of the gold beneath Smog's claws feels hollow. This was meant to break them. Instead, it has forged something far more dangerous, a unity that burns brighter than any flame. The golden halls of Erebor echo with the restless scrape of claws against treasure. Smog paces his hoard like a caged storm, each footfall sending ripples through a sea of coins. Yet the satisfaction he once felt has curdled into something darker. At first, it's faint, a hiss between the clatter of falling gemstones, a chuckle woven into the chime of shifting gold, then clearer voices, not the groans of dying men or the pleas of defeated kings, but the dry, rasping tones of dragons whose names even he has forgotten. Is this all? One murmurs from the depths of a jeweled goblet, a worm playing at kingship. Another sneers as his tail brushes a mound of melted crowns. The treasures he clawed from kingdoms, the relics he bathed in flame to claim they speak back now, taunting him with every glint of light. His growl shakes the mountain, but the whispers only multiply, slithering up from the hoard like serpents. In a fury, Smog seizes a chalice wrought by elven hands centuries ago, its surface alive with intricate scenes of starlit forests. For a moment, the voices pause as if waiting. Then, with a roar, he crushes it in his claws before blasting the fragments with fire. Molten gold runs like tears between his talons and the whispers. Stop, silence, blessed silence, but it doesn't last. By dawn, new voices emerge, this time from the twisted remains of the melted artifact. They're louder now, sharper. You cannot burn away the past. The ruined gold seems to sigh. We are in every piece you touch. A coldness seeps into Smog's bones, unsettling as the first chill of winter. He tears through the hoard, melting shields, swords, statues, anything that might harbor those echoing voices. Yet with each act of destruction, the emptiness inside him grows. What good is a mountain of gold if it's filled with ghosts? For the first time, a treacherous thought flickers. Was Valthorath right? Has the treasure that made him a king become a chain? Outside, the wind howls through Erebor's broken gates, carrying the distant sound of hammer strikes. The dwarves are rebuilding, men are arming, and beneath the weight of his own hoard, Smog feels something foreign taking root. Not fear, but doubt. A dragon who questions his purpose is a dragon already halfway to defeat, and the voices in the gold, they know it. Night cloaks the ruins of Dol Guldur in an unnatural hush, the sort of silence that hums with unseen danger. Smog's wings carve through the mist as he lands among the broken pillars, his eyes narrowing at the figure standing motionless in the moonlight, a hooded stranger. gaunt as a corpse, yet radiating a presence that prickles the dragon's instincts. You reek of deception. Smog rumbles, smoke curling between his teeth. The figure doesn't flinch. Instead, it extends a skeletal hand, revealing a sliver of darkened steel, a blade that drinks in the moonlight rather than reflecting it. The black arrow, the stranger hisses, voice like dry leaves crushed underfoot, forged to pierce even your hide. But what if you held its secret? What if none could strike you down? A trap whispers at the edges of Smog's mind, yet the bait is too tantalizing to ignore. Power has always been his language, and this offer drips with it. With a disdainful flick of his tail, he follows the stranger deeper into the ruins, where the air grows thick with the stench of decay and something far older. The ambush comes without warning. Shadows detach from the crumbling walls, their hollow screams shredding the night. Nazgul, Smog's roar, shakes the ruins as their cursed blades slash at his wings, their cold fingers clawing for his eyes. Fire erupts from his jaws, illuminating the battlefield in hellish flashes. The wraiths scatter like smoke, but they are endless, regenerating from the darkness itself. One truth becomes clear. This was never about weapons or secrets. The stranger has vanished, leaving only laughter ringing in the dragon's ears. He was lured here for a purpose far greater than his own ambitions, to test his strength, to measure his fury, to see if a creature of flame could be bent to a darker will. With a final burst of searing fire, Smog rends the sky open and escapes, his pride seared worse than his wounds. The echoes of Dol Guldur cling to him long after the ruins fade from sight. For all his might, he's been played, and the game, it seems, has only just begun. The molten glow of Erebor's inner halls flickers unnaturally as Smog drags himself back into the heart of the mountain, his wings scored with wounds that refuse to heal. The air itself seems to recoil from his fury, the stones trembling under the weight of his rage. Every shadow is a traitor now, every echo a mockery. He will not be tricked again. Gilded corridors that once shimmered with careless opulence are now studded with peril. Poison spikes slither from crevices at the brush of a claw. Pits yawn beneath false floors, their depths lined with the bones of past intruders. Even the treasure itself becomes a weapon, coins fused into scalding traps, chalices rigged to unleash rivers of molten gold. Smog moves through his domain like a blacksmith, reforging a blade, hammering weakness into ruthlessness. Yet in the silence between his labors, the whispers return. Not from the gold this time, but from the darkness between breaths. He comes. The voice is little more than a sigh, yet it freezes Smog mid-motion. A thief, small, quiet. His laughter shakes the caverns, sending avalanches of gemstones clattering. A thief, here, the notion is absurd. What fool would dare? But that night, as he coils atop his hoard, sleep pulls him under, and the dream comes. A creature, no larger than a dwarf child, yet softer, quieter, moves through his halls like mist. It does not glitter with armor or bristle with weapons. It simply slips past his traps, between his claws, under his very gaze. In the dream, Smog strikes again, but his talons close on empty air. The thief escapes, and in its tiny hands gleams a single cup, stolen from the heart of his hoard. Dawn finds Smog pacing, his tail lashing. Nonsense. A trick of the mind, nothing more. Yet his eyes keep darting to the shadows, searching for a shape that shouldn't be there. The whispers taunt him with riddles. What walks without footsteps? What takes without hands? His pride roars that no creature alive could outwit him. But deep in the marrow of his bones, something colder stirs. The gnawing knowledge that even dragons, for all their might, can bleed. And where there is blood, there are always scavengers. Decades slither by like serpents through the cracks of Erebor's halls. The mountain has become both kingdom and prison, its gold-strewn corridors echoing with the same hollow clinks of shifting treasure, the same whispers only Smaug seems to hear. At first, he dismisses the voices as tricks of the mind, but slowly, inevitably, he starts answering them. A tarnished crown murmurs of forgotten battles, and he snarls back. A cracked gem whimpers of its slain elven smith, and he scoffs. The hoard is no longer just his prize, it's his only company. Then, one dust-choked afternoon, a shadow flits across the cavern's entrance. A raven, its feathers ruffled from haste. The bird doesn't cower as others might. It meets Smaug's gaze and croaks a single, damning truth. Thror's kin are marching. They come to reclaim their home. For the first time in centuries, the dragon feels his pulse quicken, not with fear, but with something perilously close to relief, battle, purpose, an end to the creeping silence. His claws dig into the gold beneath him as he barks a laugh. Let them come. Let their axes shatter against his scales, their blood sizzle on his flames. Yet as he methodically fortifies the mountain-collapsing tunnels, smothering weak points with molten rock, an unwelcome thought slithers in. The whispers in the hoard grow louder, more insistent. You knew this day would arrive, hisses a shattered dwarven shield. You've seen it in your dreams. Smaug freezes mid-motion. It's true. For years, his slumber has been plagued by visions of a lone arrow, a flash of scales, a fall that shakes the earth. He shakes his massive head, scattering coins like startled birds. Prophecies are for fools and doomed kings. He is Smaug the Terrible, the last great fire drake, and if this is to be his final stand, he'll drag the entire mountain down in flames before he concedes. High above, the raven watches, its beady eyes reflecting the dragon's restless pacing. It doesn't need to speak to understand the truth. Smaug's fury is as bright as ever, but for the first time, it burns with the faintest shadow of doubt. The first tremor shakes the lonely mountain as Thror and Oakenshield's company pounds on Erebor's sealed gates, not with siege engines, but with the desperation of exiles come home. The sound is muffled deep within the treasury, but Smaug's ear twitches. His nostrils flare, catching a scent long absent from these halls, dwarven sweat, iron, and the acrid tang of vengeance. A slow smile splits his maw. Let them hammer, let them hope. Their terror will taste sweeter for the wait. From the shadows of a crumbling parapet, he watches the intruders creep through the ruins of Dale, their torchlight pitiful against the mountain's bulk. Thorin's voice carries on the wind, barking orders in that brash, kingly tone. How amusing this would be, ruler, scrambling over rubble like a beggar. Smog lets them scurry closer, savoring the moment when their bravado curdles into dread. Only when their boots echo in the outer halls does he stir, melting into the darkness with the silence of a stalking predator. Yet something is off. The dwarves are too loud, too reckless, a distraction. His gaze sweeps the cavern, and there, Near a spill of sapphires, the air shivers. A figure, smaller than a dwarf and softer at the edges, freezes mid-step. A hobbit. Smaug's pulse thrums. Here is the true thief from his dreams, standing flesh and blood before him. Fire pools in his throat, but curiosity stays his breath. Bilbo Baggins' voice, when it comes, is steadier than it has any right to be. Truly, songs do you know justice, O Smaug the Magnificent. The flattery is obvious, but the hobbit's eyes, wide yet unbroken, hold something rarer, wit. Their ensuing dance of riddles is a game Smaug hasn't played in centuries, each twist a phrase, a spark against his boredom. For a fleeting moment, he almost enjoys it. Then the wind shifts. A draft carries the scent of the hobbit's pockets, and beneath the sweat and leather, something pierces the haze of gold, the Arkenstone's absence. The heart of the mountain, gone, rage detonates like a volcano. Stone cracks as Smog whips around, his bulk demolishing pillars, his roar shredding the air. The dwarves' cries scatter like leaves as he barrels toward the gates, molten rock spraying in his wake. No more games, no more patience. If Lake Town sheltered these thieves, then Lake Town will drown in fire. Thorin's shouts fade behind him, meaningless now. The only thought burning in Smog's mind as he erupts into the dawn is this: let the world see what happens when a dragon's wrath goes unchecked. Somewhere below, the bard's song rises anew, a single line carried on the smoke. The arrow finds its mark, but Smog no longer hears warnings, only the thunder of his own wings and the screams yet to come. The night air over Lake Town is thick with the stench of burning timber and desperation as Smog's silhouette blots out the moon. Flames lick hungrily at the wooden walkways, turning the once bustling port into a labyrinth of fire and panic. His wings carve through the smoke like blades, each pass unleashing another torrent of destruction. Men scramble, children scream, and still the dragon revels in their terror. His laughter a deep, rolling thunder that shakes the very foundations of the lake. Bard grips the edge of a crumbling rooftop, his knuckles white around the shaft of his last arrow, the black arrow, passed down through generations. Its tip still bears the faintest glimmer of its ancient magic. Around him, the townsfolk's cries are deafening, but his focus sharpens on something else, the whisper of wind through the ruins, carrying a voice not quite human. A thrush perches on a blackened beam, its beak opening in a series of urgent, rhythmic clicks. The creature's gaze locks onto him, intelligent, knowing. The hollow beneath his left wing, the wind seems to murmur, where scale once was torn and never regrown. Smog's shadow looms closer, his taunts booming through the chaos. Fools, did you think your hovels could hide you, that your pitiful arrows could scratch me? His wings flare wide, deliberately exposing the glinting jewels fused to his belly, a grotesque armor of stolen treasures. But in that moment, Bard sees what the dragon does not, the flicker of bare flesh, where the thrush's warning had promised weakness. The bowstring groans as Bard draws back, his breath steady despite the inferno around him. Time slows, the thrush's song fades into silence. Even Smog's roar seems distant as the arrow takes flight, its arc true, its aim guided by something older than revenge, older even than the dragon himself. A heartbeat later, the night fractures. Smog's triumphant snarl twists into a guttural shriek as the black arrow finds its mark. Fire spills from his jaws not in rage, but in shock, a molten gasp torn from the depths of his being. His wings convulse, sending a tremor through the air as he lurches sideways, crashing into the burning remnants of the town's watchtower. The impact sends shockwaves across the lake, water hissing where his body meets the surface. For a single, suspended moment, the world holds its breath. Then the great worm sinks beneath the waves, his golden eyes dimming, his fire extinguished at last. The once mighty Smog, who claimed kingdoms and defied fate, falls not to an army, but to a fisherman's steady hand, a bird's whispered secret, and the echo of a curse he'd long dismissed as folly. As dawn bleeds into the sky, the people of Lake Town wade through the wreckage, their voices hushed. Some weep, others stare in disbelief at the lake's still surface. But Bard stands silent, his fingers brushing the empty quiver at his side. The thrush watches him for a moment before taking wing, its song lost to the wind. The dragon is dead, yet somewhere, deep beneath the lonely mountain, the gold stirs restlessly, as if even in death, Smog's shadow lingers. The night shatters with Smog's agonized roar, a sound so monstrous it ripples across Lake Town's burning rooftops, shaking the very air. The black arrow, humming with forgotten magic, has struck true. There, beneath the left wing, where scales never fully regrown after some ancient battle, the shaft sinks deep. Fire belches from the dragon's jaws, not in fury now, but in wet, guttering spasms. His wings flap wildly, each beat spraying molten blood that hisses against the lake's surface. For a heartbeat, he hovers midair, disbelief glazing those golden eyes. Then gravity takes him. The impact sends a geyser of water skyward as Smog's massive body crashes into the shallows. Steam erupts in a thick cloud, swallowing his form. The townsfolk's cheers are drowned out by the sizzle of dying flames, the groan of buckling scales. Beneath the water, his great claws scrabble at the mud, but the lake refuses to release him. And then, the voices, they rise from the depths of his mind, no longer whispers but cruel, cackling echoes. Did you think it would last forever? Hisses a goblet melted long ago. All that glitters is not gold, sneers a dwarven crown, its jewels blackened by dragon fire. The taunts come faster now, from every trinket he's ever hoarded, every treasure he's ever claimed. Even in death, they deny him peace. Smog's final breath bubbles to the surface, carrying not fire, but a single word, mine. Then the water stills. The gold in Erebor's halls falls silent at last. High above, the wind carries the scent of charred wood and wet scales. Bard lowers his bow, his fingers numb. The thrush that guided his shot takes flight, its wings brushing the dawn light. Somewhere beneath the lake's dark surface, the greatest terror of the age lies extinguished not by armies or spells, but by an arrow, a secret, and the folly of a dragon who forgot that treasure makes a poor armor. Yet as the survivors gather on the shore, their faces lit by the rising sun, none celebrate. They've won, but the mountain's shadow stretches long across the water, and gold still gleams in its depths. Some curses outlive even dragons. The death of Smog doesn't bring silence, it brings a reckoning. As the last wisps of smoke curl over the ruins of Lake Town, the world holds its breath. The lonely mountain stands unguarded, its halls echoing with the footsteps of Thorin Oakenshield and his company, their hands trembling not with fear now, but with awe. Gold, untouched for generations, glitters in torchlight, and yet the air tastes bitter. The cost of this victory lingers, lives lost, trust fractured, a kingdom reclaimed but forever scarred. Bard kneels in the ashes of Dale, his fingers brushing the blackened stones where his ancestors once walked. The same hands that loosed the fatal arrow now gather splintered wood and broken bricks. But this isn't just reconstruction, it's defiance. We build not just against dragons, he tells the survivors, but against greed. The lesson of Smaug's reign isn't merely about fire and ruin, it's about the slow corrosion of unchecked desire. And as the first new walls rise, the people of Dale whisper a promise, never again. Yet in the quiet corners of Middle-earth, other ears have heard the dragon's fall. In Dol Guldur, where shadows cling too thickly to the trees, a pale figure stirs. Sauron's gaze turns northward, sensing the void left by Smaug's absence. Power abhors a vacuum, and the Dark Lord's spiders creep closer, weaving webs of deception. Even in Mordor, the earth trembles not in fear, but anticipation. The dragon's hoard was never the true prize. It was the chaos he sowed. And now, with Erebor weakened and men scattered, the stage is set for an older, fouler darkness to rise. Meanwhile, the Arkenstone pulses faintly in Thorin's grip, its glow a reminder not of triumph, but of the burdens of kingship. The dwarves' celebration is haunted by the ghosts of fallen kin, their laughter edged with exhaustion. Balin, ever the wise one, murmurs what no one else dares say aloud. Dragons are gone, but gold still whispers, and not all enemies come with wings. Far below, in the cold waters of the lake, Smaug's carcass sinks deeper into the silt, but the ripples of his destruction, they've only begun to spread. The wind howls through the empty corridors of Erebor, carrying the scent of charred stone and cold gold. A lone traveler steps over the rubble of the great hall, boots crunching on fragments of shattered treasure goblets, bent by dragonfire, helms twisted into grotesque shapes. Then a glint in the ash, a single scale, larger than a shield, its edges crumbling like burnt parchment. The wanderer hesitates. Something pulses beneath its surface, not heat, but memory. The moment their fingers brush the scale, a shudder runs through them. The air itself seems to whisper with Smaug's voice, a dry rasp like embers shifting. Did you think it would end with me? Far to the south, in forgotten chambers where even the earth's bones are restless, a pool of magma bubbles violently. No natural fissure caused this. The molten rock heaves as if something below is breathing slow, deliberate. The mountains remember dragons, and deep in the shadows, something remembers being one. The wanderer drops the scale, but the imprint lingers on their skin, a stain darker than soot. Legends claim dragons are born of greed and shadow, but perhaps they are simply waiting for the right hand to grasp their scales, for the right heart to kindle their fire anew. The cycle does not end. It sleeps, and sleep, after all, is not death. High above, a raven watches, its feathers ruffled by a wind that smells of sulfur. It does not caw, it does not flee, it simply watches, as it watched the fall of Smaug, as it will watch whatever comes next. The embers of Smaug's reign may have cooled, but the scars he left upon Middle-earth still smolder, not just in charred stone and emptied treasuries, but in the whispered lessons etched into the land itself. His rise from the Withered Heath to the throne of Erebor wasn't merely a story of fire and gold. It was a slow unraveling of the soul, where ambition curdled into obsession and pride calcified into blindness. Consider the relics strewn across the lonely mountain's halls, the melted crowns, the shattered swords. Each one tells a quieter tale of dwarven kings who hoarded wealth until it poisoned their judgment, of elves who thought diplomacy could tame a storm, of men who learned too late that dragons aren't conquered by walls, but by wisdom. Smog's greatest weapon wasn't his flame. It was the folly of those who believed they could outwit hunger itself. Yet in the silence that follows his fall, there's an unsettling truth. The wind that rattles Dale's rebuilt streets carries more than ash, it carries echoes. The thrush that guided Bard's arrow still nests in the mountain's crevices, its song now laced with a new refrain. Dragons sleep, it seems to chirp, but the world remembers, and it does, in the way Thorin's fingers tighten around the Arkenstone, as if fearing its glow might dim. In the way Bard's children startle at the crackle of hearth fires, even in the far reaches of the Shire, where Bilbo Baggins pens his memoirs by candlelight, the shadow of wings lingers at the edge of the page. Smog is gone, yet his legacy is a mirror held up to every heart that covets, every hand that grasps too tightly. Perhaps that's the real curse of dragons. They don't just perish when arrows strike true. They seep into the soil of history, a warning etched in smoke and scales. Long after the last coin of Erebor is counted, their whispers endure. That power untempered by purpose is a cage, and gold makes a cold companion when the fire inside you burns out. The mountain stands quieter now, but not empty. Somewhere in the deep, where magma curls like a sleeping serpent, the earth stirs, not with rebirth, but with reminder. Legends don't end, they wait, and Middle-earth, forever shaped by fire and folly, knows better than to forget.